Hello everyone, let's have ourselves a chat. I'm John from Rusty Chains, and today our chat is about the newest heists introduced in Payday 3's second update. Before we really dig into that though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. First is our usual disclaimer. As Starbreeze partners, we were given access over the weekend to play these heists in advance and prepare some content. However, we were not paid to do this. Also, I know there's a skill tree in this patch, but the test servers were a little wonky over the weekend, so I wasn't able to fully level it. So I'm focusing on that now, and the patch is out, so I'm going to do a proper video on that later in the week. Got it? Yes? Yes? Good. Onto the heists. These are in a new Legacy tab on the Heist Select menu. There's no cutscenes or a huge connection to the overarching narratives with these heists. The only story connection is the assassins that went after the Payday gang before Payday 3 also got to lock, but he also survived and went into hiding until he saw the gang was active again. He reached out with some new jobs for them, but concluded he's in no condition to be the operator anymore and left it up to Shade. But with all this in mind, these heists can fit anywhere in the Payday 3 timeline after No Rest for the Wicked. So let's begin by talking about Cook-Off. Canonically, this is a new meth lab in upstate New York, and not the condemned house we used twice in Payday 2. However, this one is also on the police's radar. When you start the heist, the police are already inside arresting the meth cooks. Those are your hostages to start the heist, and the only ones you get unless you have somebody on your team that can cuff a police officer. You can get a special favor for additional hostages, which places 3 additional civilians in the garage at the start of the heist for you to tie up. Still, those are also only there at the beginning of the heist, so make sure you've got somebody to take police as hostages if you want to make those trades for resources while you hunker down here. Now, let's talk about the heist layout. The first floor interior is the same. The second floor design is the same, but the wall separating the 2 rooms is opened up, which means you have less cover. The basement, however, is greatly expanded. It now boasts a 3rd possible meth lab spawn location, as well as larger windows that police can slide through. At the back is a rear entrance to a new underground garage. The pickup truck that was outside behind the house in Payday 2 has moved into this garage as well. Behind the truck is a first aid kit mounted on the wall. Take note of this, since you'll be here a while and with limited resources. The 2 exterior sheds from Payday 2 are in the same locations with the same interiors, though they now also have the first aid stations as well, for a total of 3 on the map when you spawn in. The rear of the house is undergoing renovations, with a scaffold that wraps around from the side of the house up to the 2nd floor for exterior access. This also grants access to the roof of the rear shed. The zipline has been adjusted, landing you outside the 3 second-story windows on the front of the house rather than going all the way up to the top roof. Unfortunately, some favors you bring, like medic or ammo bags, will spawn out in the street, making them so dangerous to reach during assaults that they're almost pointless. I like these layout changes, aside from the favor locations, as there's more ways in or out of the house, as well as around from one side to the other through the underground section. However, I find the basement lab to actually be pretty brutal. You only have 2 points to leave, but cops can come in through all the windows, giving them a total of 5 points of entry. It's very easy to get overwhelmed down there if you're not careful. Now that you're acclimated with the map, it's time to cook some meth. To start, there are 7 sets of ingredients on the map. These can spawn in the exterior sheds, under the scaffolding, in the garage, and in all 3 floors of the house. The initial cooking process is the same as the Payday 2 version of this heist, with Shade reading out instructions and occasionally making mistakes that need to be corrected. If you've played the previous game, you know what's up. Wait for Shade to confirm the ingredients and check in with your teammates before you cook. I won't spoil her voice lines for you, but Shade's cooking lines are pretty funny with some neat references to previous meth jobs. The in-game chat also tells you when you've picked up and used ingredients, so you can easily track what's been used in the current batch. An additional hiccup to the cooking in Payday 3 is that the cops can kill the power as they did in Payday 2. This time around though, it also completely halts meth cooking, so you'll want to get that power back on as soon as possible so you can continue progressing with the heist. Collecting the finished meth is a little different as well. Once the meth is done, it'll have this white color to it. You can bag it right away to spawn a normal loot bag designated as meth. This has some monetary value to it, but not as much as if you let it sit. Wait on the meth for a short amount of time, and it'll turn blue and start sparkling. Grab it now for a bag of pure meth. This has the highest value, and the green X symbols on the bag like Degeneration X or the clean jewelry from Dirty Ice. However, if you let the meth wait too long after it becomes pure, it gets burnt and turns a brownish red color. This is the least value and has a red smoking bag similar to the dyed money on No Rest for the Wicked. An escape driver will come by every few minutes to collect what you have on hand and offer escape, similar to Payday 2. Once you complete 6 of the 7 meth sets on the map, you can drop a flare for a supply drop from Bile. This drop has 4 more sets of meth. You can get 3 of these supply drops for a total of 19 bags on this heist. Now that we've established the ground rules of this heist, how does it actually play? Well, I think it's probably the most difficult loud heist in Payday 3. Starbreeze has repeatedly said that they designed a loud heist in Payday 3 to be death by 1,000 cuts. You're supposed to get in, get out, and get as much as you can. Their idea of the robber fantasy, where every additional minute you spend in the heist after the alarm rings is detrimental to you. I'm not here to argue whether that's good or bad for the game. That's your preference, but Cook-Off shines a spotlight on those design decisions like nothing else in this game has yet. Cooking the meth takes time. With the 19 bag cap, plus waiting for the supply drops and needing to turn the power back on, Starbreeze told us they estimate it'll take an average of 45 to 50 minutes for a full 19 bag run. That's an eternity in Payday 3, where every other heist is meant to be completed in 15 to 20 minutes if you're running loud. You don't get additional resources during your time on Cook-Off. You have your favors and what you bring in on your person with you. That's it. Survival is pretty hard, especially with the substantial nerf to armor up this patch. Maybe it's the fact that we had to level our test accounts from 0 to play this, or maybe it's just a skill issue, but in all our time testing, we never got more than 9 bags in a run. We were out of armor and going down a ton, so we had to leave if we wanted to survive and finish the heist. This problem expedites on higher difficulties, where the final charge triggers earlier and earlier. An overkill, finishing your 10th bag of the 19 will trigger that final charge, which means an infinite assault. The Payday 3 respawn timer alleviates this a bit, but it almost seems like the optimal solution to survive would be 2 bots and 2 players. This allows players to custody rotate as necessary, as the bots can continue to supply armor or ammo. I'm not a huge fan of that idea, though, because I want to play with all 4 players in my 4-player co-op game. To make it to the end of Cook-Off in Payday 3, you'll need to go full tank and full balls to the wall. But hey, you'll grind out those weapon kill challenges like nobody's business. Moving on to Murky Station, which is now called Turbid Station, the layout actually received very few changes. In fact, aside from a few conveniently stacked boxes in place of ladders and some nice scaffolds to climb on top of the train cars, there are no layout changes. It's almost completely unchanged. The real switch-ups here are in the gameplay and the flow of the heist. In Payday 2, you had to get loot out of 4 murky water train cars. Each required a different access method. A keycard, a hard drive, a blowtorch, or some thermal paste. These have changed in Payday 3, aside from being called quants instead of murky water. The keycard objective is the same. Other than that, the hard drive now requires you to steal an SSD from a laptop, while the blowtorch and thermal paste objectives are gone entirely. One of the new objectives is to find the site supervisor who wears a hard hat and high-vis. You'll need to stand near him and hack his phone for a QR code, which you can use to open one of the train car vault doors. The tricky thing here is he's always in a secure area, so being spotted means being arrested. The final changed objective is, in my opinion, the hardest stealth objective in Payday 3. In the basement floor, you need to find the Quant's employee wearing a dress shirt and pants. You'll need to take him hostage and bring him through the entire basement floor and use him to open a security room. Once in the room, you need to dispatch the guaranteed guard spawn in there and hack the computer. This will give you a few minutes to get back up top and open the vault door tied to the control room. If you don't complete this task in time, you'll need to head back to the control room and initiate the timer again. Here's why this is so challenging to me. The control room is always just through a junction of the lower floor where there's multiple cameras watching, as many guards and civs pass through this area. Getting the Quants dude through there is a tricky operation that I've yet to do solo. Even getting to the control room, the forced usage of a pager there is a big problem on Overkill, where you only have 2 before the search triggers. When playing this heist over the weekend with fellow Starbreeze partner Sea-Dog, we found it best to just do this objective first, since the vast majority of the time, this is what would end our runs. Payday 3's new stealth mechanics make the rest of the heist easier to do though. If you can get the height for it, you can apply your gadgets like microcams or motion detectors to the overhead drones, essentially making them work in your favor. The drones also have red zones underneath them now, making it much easier to figure out when you're in their field of vision. Once you get the hang of all this, you'll be ready to handle Turbid Station in such a way where ninjas in socks tiptoeing on carpet make more noise than you. So, how do I feel about these heists? I think they're both pretty damn hard, which I guess is good because a lot of players are starting to conquer a lot of the base content for Payday 3, so stepping it up is probably a pretty solid idea here. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, don't forget to spread that happy and stay rusty.